You're all set, Dave.
All right, meeting called to order. Today is Tuesday, March 16th, Town Council, West Warwick Fiscal Year 22 Budget Workshop.
Councilman Licciardi,
Here.
Councilman Messia,
Here.
Councilwoman Williamson,
Here.
Council Vice President D'Amico,
Here.
Council President Goslin. There is a quorum on
Here.
record.
All right, obviously this is fiscal year 22 budget, 21-22. Our ultimate goal is to do what's best for the taxpayer and get our budget down to the bare minimum for the least impact on the taxpayer. And I know, Mark, you have an opening statement.
Yes, thank you. I sent a condensed memo to the council earlier today, just to surmise that. Obviously, tonight we start the town council's process of reviewing and vetting the proposed fiscal 22 budget. I believe the department heads were considerate of the town's fiscal constraints while drafting their request that will support the continuation of the services expected by our community and provide for the upgrading of capital items necessary to provide those services safely and efficiently. I also wanted to acknowledge the work of our finance director, Kristen, in producing this proposal with me and assisting my slow learning curve along the way. This process has been affected by the uncertainty of the finalized state budget and its related aid packages, and by the COVID pandemic and the associated federal aid plans. So how these factor into this fiscal 22 revenue and expenditure plan is still a work in progress, and we don't have all those answers yet. But for the proposal that's before you tonight, the key points are the total budget increase is a little more than 5.4 million. That's inclusive of 2.1 million in municipal expenses and 3.3 million in school aid passed through the appropriation. The levy increase is 2.01%, or slightly more than 1.2 million. The estimated tax increase, dependent on the finalized tangible annual return, in this proposal is a 2.1% increase. There are funds included in general government for our current collective bargaining processes. The capital expenditure request in this proposal is $436,000. It contains a 100% contribution of our pension ARC. $358,000 was included for our property revaluation process in this fiscal year. Our tax collection rate was increased from 96.8% to 97%. And we propose the use of $500,000 from the fund balance as a balancing mechanism. So again, I look forward to working with you all to get this to that point where we can present it to our community at the financial town meeting.
Any questions for Mark?
Yeah, I have one that you probably can't answer now, but I know that people are going to be bringing up the potential money that we may get from the federal government. So, whatever you can answer about that, how will that affect, if it will affect at all, this upcoming budget?
Again, it may have some effect, but so far we don't even have a total amount yet. We hear a lot of, 3 different sets of numbers, and what's presented, does it include school aid? Does it not have school aid? Kristen was on a meeting earlier today with finance directors, so she may be able to provide a few more specifics. However, it does appear at first glance that it isn't designed just to dump into a current operating budget. There are some mechanisms in place, and we don't have the guidance yet on how to do it. To be able to replace some lost revenues was a big one. To invest in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure, depending on how you interpret that. a caveat for essential worker pay, and obviously more for COVID-related expenses, which we also have opportunities through, FEMA and Rhode Island Emergency Management as well. So it's really hard to tell at this point to say, hey, we have a chunk of money that we can rely on to offset any, fiscal 21 or fiscal 22 revenues or expenditures. So we felt it's important just to carry on, not assuming we have it. And as soon as we get some answers, hopefully we get them quickly during the initial part of this budget process. And we can have some better answers for you then.
So maybe like in the future, when more things come out, maybe we have a specific workshop based on just talking about that possibly.
Possibly. I mean, if there's something that we can integrate into this process before we finalize what we present to the taxpayers, we'll definitely come forward with that. But without the guidance on what we'd have to report back and how to do it, it would be premature to be able to say, we can offset a significant amount of proposed expenditures at this point.
And all that makes total sense. I just want to, at least that way we're forthcoming when I know that we will get it from constituents that just are under the assumption that all of a sudden 16 million is getting dumped into this budget, which is absolutely not what's happening. So.
Correct.
Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Mark? I have the list of departments that are here that's starting. Do we want to go with the Civic Center first, or do we want to go through each department one by one?
Dave, I'll respond. It doesn't matter to me. They'll all be done. So whatever's easy.
All right, let's go with the Civic Center first, and then we'll move on to each department. Lori, are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, if you want to start, go ahead. I'm just logging in now, so.
Okay. So I'm hoping that everyone has the same spreadsheet in front of them that I have. It's, again, we call it a budget, but basically it's a guideline of what could possibly come in and what is going to come in and all that stuff, and just to make sure the expenses don't exceed the revenue. I made a lot of cuts. I've been able to schedule a lot better over the last year. COVID did obviously put a big strain on everything, but other than that, I think that this budget moving forward into FY-22 will be perfect. I'm not sure if anyone has any questions, or you want me to go over it line by line, or how you want me to go with it.
I'd say I have a question.
Okay.
Probably for Chris. I don't know. Looking at, we got the hard copy in I don't know, a couple months ago, and I guess it's maybe for you too, Laurie, where it says manager marketing director 75,000, and then on the sheet that we got said, I'm trying to find it on my tablet. It's either 60 or 65,000. I don't understand what the difference is. If you look at the personal supplement, it would be on the last page, and it is 64,441.38. Right on the. All right, I'm in the binder right now. Should I be in the binder?
No, you should be using the ones that we sent out, the PDFs I sent out on Monday.
Okay. Sorry, I was on mute. Do we have a position in there for the maintenance guy?
So I'm going to stick with the part-timers just because it is, I don't feel that at this time, I don't feel that there is a full-time position needed.
So when you're talking maintenance, are we talking a kid that's
No, I have,
toilet paper, or are we talking a maintenance person that can fix the Zamboni?
so no one can fix the Zamboni, so I would call in a professional to fix the Zamboni, just because it is
But that's
something
like
that
first.
is, right. So I do on staff, I have people that can fix, a small little glitch in the system, yes. But everything else, I mean, I've learned very well from being here that you need people that are expertise are those kind of things, whether it be the cooling tower, whether it's compressors, Zamboni. You need someone that is licensed, insured, does it every single day. You don't want just any person coming and doing it. I've learned.
Okay. And I'm going to bring this up probably in all three budgets. It's the administrative fees. We talked about this well over a year ago. I know some of you are in disagreement with me. That's fine, but I can't get past this. I consider the Civic Center an enterprise fund, which we all do, and I consider the sewer department an enterprise fund. So I don't understand why the sewer department is still paying administrative fees and the Civic Center is not.
They are apples to oranges. The Civic Center uses minimal town hall resources, minimal, whereas the sewer department has a sewer billing. We collect their sewer receipts. We do their accounting. We run meetings. There's a lot more work that we do for the sewer enterprise than we do minimal for the Civic Center. Lori pretty much does it all. So it's just, and it, like you said, we want to get it healthy. It's not healthy. It's not in
I get
position.
But it's not about that though. All right, so I'm going to compare. If the sewer plant couldn't pay their bill and they were $100,000 short, what would we say to them?
So
We say raise the something different, raise the rate.
All right, so
It's
I
the
just
same
want
thing
to,
on a much smaller scale, but it's the same thing. I mean, I don't know what the answer is, if we keep going in the red, but bottom line, I mean, it's still an enterprise fund.
right, so bottom
they
line, it
still
is an
get paid
enterprise
from the
fund.
town, right? You still get paid from the paychecks from the town.
So let me just
And
explain to you, I don't know. I sat with Christine and we went through the whole administrative spreadsheet for the sewer commission. And we went through every single position that is charged a very small portion to the sewer department that works for the sewer department in here in town hall, where their salary gets charged to the general fund. And then we went over and we removed any overhead costs like electricity, what now they're paying for the wind turbines. We went through it with a fine tooth comb, and what they're getting charged for is what people are actually doing. There's nobody collecting payments 35 hours a week, 3 clerks collecting payments for the Civic Center, but they are for the sewer department. The work is different. It's not that they're both enterprise funds. The work is different. They're two different facilities, and the workload for sewer is different.
It's right. I know it's a lot more. There's no question, but there's still work being done.
All right, so can I explain something
I don't even think I can quantify what we do for the Civic Center.
So, but let me just explain what the Civic Center is a service to the town. It's here to give a service to the town. So every day, the school uses the Civic Center for gym class, for practices, for whatnot. The Civic Center this last year had 4 elections here. Whether it's a community event that is put on by certain people or certain organizations, it also provides for that. The COVID vaccines, they all take place to that. Every single one of these things, I mean, I could go on and on for forever, and I'm sure I could bore everyone to death, but every single one of those things, there is an employee here. There's someone that's cleaning up. There's someone that's putting things together. So I think comparing the Civic Center to the sewer department is completely different. I mean, on staff, I have 7 people. The 7 of us, that's it. So it's not, you know, this big, huge staff that I have going. I mean, they're all part-timers. They work, you know, 18 to 20 hours a week. I mean, it's not anything of this. I think it's a great asset and it's a gem here. And I think that it's going in the right direction finally, that our community is able to utilize this facility. And there's so many people that are able to use it and enjoy it. And that's what these buildings were built for in the beginning. I mean, if you go back and you read through Dan Sylvester's, all his documents that were published and whatnot, you'll see that that was their main goal, was to have this as a gem for the town to be able to use to, you know, everyone can utilize it for whatever the need is. I mean, minus
I don't think
COVID,
I've never questioned it. I'm just saying it's an enterprise fund. The sewer department's an enterprise fund. There are still, at what little may be, administrative costs.
I mean, I don't mean, maybe like you should come here and you should see like how the billing takes place. I mean, I'm the one that does the billing. I'm the one that does the payroll. I'm the one that does, you know, collecting of the checks. Like, yes, I do bring them down to town hall and they do deposit them, but
and then what?
I mean,
and then what? And then what? That's my question. That's my question.
I'm the one that puts all the data into Tyler.
After everything leaves the Civic Center, it goes to town hall, and then what?
The deposits go to the bank with all the other deposits from every other.
So nobody even looks at it? Nobody checks it? Nobody enters anything?
No, it's already entered. Like when you make the deposit, it's entered. So when someone.
So you don't need. So what I'm saying, I'm trying to get into the nitty gritty, I guess, right here, is once you do everything, so you don't. Listen, I think the Civic Center is a good piece. Okay, and I never said it wasn't. However, I'm trying to say, so you don't need town hall for anything.
They write the checks. And
No,
yes,
it's
I
not
do
about
need
checks.
town
It's not
hall
about
to
checks.
go over things, you know, on occasion,
Okay.
yes.
Meetings with the manager, meetings with the manager, meetings with the finance director. All those are administrative costs. That's what I was told when I had questions about the sewer department. So I'm trying to treat it the same way.
All right, but does the
If
sewer
we're not
department?
going to, we're not going.
So my question to you
The
is,
sewer
does the sewer
department
department provide these same services for elections or things like that?
It's irrelevant. That's irrelevant, though. It's irrelevant. It's what I was told of when I questioned what administrative costs were, I was told it was overhead, and that's common in a business, which I agree with. So it's common in one business, but not common in the other, and that's what I disagree with. So listen, I don't want to waste anybody's time. If we're going to let it go and not have administrative costs for the Civic Center, whatever. I just disagree with that.
I guess my question to you would be, do you think that all these services that are provided that are here, which would be the, you know, say just, we'll take for instance, just the elections, like should I be charging the clerk's office then to have elections here, or, you know, the COVID vaccines, like should I be charging the hourly rate to who? Is it taxpayers? Like, I mean, I'm not sure where you want to go with it. I mean, there's just so many things that are provided, so we could either charge for those and then pay the administrative fees, or.
So I mean, I don't know if anybody else wants to weigh in.
I mean, I think the Civic Center is finally going in the right direction, and maybe, you know, a non-COVID year, that could be something that came up. I mean, this year alone, just due to COVID, we have $110,000 of cancellations that couldn't take place because there was government shutdowns. There was nothing anyone could do. Everything got shut down. So I think that maybe you give it a non-COVID year and then we revisit. Should there be administrative fees? Yeah, if there's money, absolutely. I totally 100% believe it. But I believe that in a year that you had $110,000 worth of cancellations, I don't think that this would be the correct year to visit it. But that's just my opinion.
I'll weigh in on this, Kristen. How many hours do you think a year do you facilitate and administer anything to do with the Civic Center? And how many hours a year do you administer and facilitate anything for the sewer plant?
So the sewer plant is definitely more heavy with the audit. The tax collectors collect the payments for the sewer. I meet with Christine during the budget season. I also meet with Lori. I mean, I don't know, maybe, and I don't even want to say a half hour, an hour a week, maybe for Civic Center, half hour, maybe. Some weeks, nothing. You know, it depends. It's very hard to quantify because it's so little.
Well, my opinion, I'm not sure where we stand on it as far as the entire council, but, we went through this last year, hours on end, especially when it came to the sewer department. And I know it's a few $100,000 difference there. With the Civic Center, it's always been, and Laura, I understand you basically lose rentals this year for the COVID. And if that's the case, and Councilman, if you agree that she should be charging for, if you think she should be getting charged for any type of administration, then she should also be charging for anybody who uses it. And that means for anything. That means for the COVID center, that means for elections, that means for Easter egg hunts, that also includes dances. So, it's up to you how you want to go about that. I think the Civic Center is a great asset to this town. And if we're going to bicker about $5,000 or whatever it may be per year, I understand your feeling about the sewer department, but to bring the Civic Center into comparison to the sewer department, I think is crazy considering the amount of hours.
We did indeed have a lengthy discussion last year, and you know what, it was a crazy year, so maybe that's why it got put on the back burner. Maybe a formal discussion does need to be had. I think, Jason, the premise is correct. And we have to just as a council decide, are we going to charge the schools? Are we going to charge the people that hold dances? Are we going to charge? And I'm hoping actually for the COVID shots that we actually get some money back. I assume we could charge some rent and heat and utilities and ask for reimbursement from the federal government for that stuff, I assume. But having a formal discussion and taking a stance is something we need to do, and it shouldn't be done at this point in time in the process, quite honestly.
Besides the administrative fees or anything like that, does any other council member have any questions for Lori on her budget?
I just wanted to add to that, I do get the premise of what he's saying, because in theory, an ecosystem is an ecosystem. So if you have a small business, you run it the exact same way as a larger business. However, we've talked about this before, and I think we were of the mindset that the Civic Center is more of like a combination of a public entity where it serves other purposes beyond, I think what the councilman is proposing.
Any other questions for Lori?
I would actually add to that, and I would agree. It's not an excuse about COVID. It's how are we going to run this entity in any given year? It has nothing to do with the fact that this was an oddball year. So I agree. We've had conversations. I don't think we've ever formalized them, and perhaps that's something we should do. I will say that perhaps that didn't take place because of COVID. We didn't have the time or the place to do it. So it should be addressed, and we should put it come up with a formal position and put it to bed once and for all. Again, I don't believe this time in the budget process is the time to do that, but it does need to be done.
Do you think that maybe this coming year, we just keep track of it? Then we keep track of it, and then going into the next budget, then that could be something that's added into it. So it would be an actual, just a somewhat of an estimate, but trying to keep track of it as much as that we possibly can over the next year, whether it's one of my million spreadsheets that I love to keep, that I could just put it in, whether it's I'm talking to Kristen or Mark or something, or whatever it is, and just go from there.
I think there should be some sort of mechanism to track the time, whether you're talking to the town manager or the town clerk or finance director, or whether there's something else happening in town hall, whether the processing of the payments that you bring down takes longer than you might think or not think, bank reconciliations, all those things. Yes, so you have a basis instead of having a conversation at budget time where we kind of all say, well, really isn't much, could be that way we have contemporaneous notes and can track it and actually have a conversation around how much time it is.
Yeah,
And what the value of that time is.
So starting, I'll start now, and then we'll keep it going, and then it'll be there. So we'll have the information and we'll be able to go forward with it.
And if you could go back, you're right, for the coming year, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I agree, start it now, so you'll have 3.5 months left of this budget year and what happens in the next budget year, so we have some comparison.
Yeah, we'll have a starting point at least.
All right, any other questions for Lori? Thank you, Lori. Building department.
Yes. You guys hear me? Can you hear me, Dave?
Yes.
Okay. Stuck real close to last year's budget. I've only got a 0.19 increase total in my budget. Do you want me to go line for line the budget?
Just give us the major changes or any changes from last year, and then the council can ask you any questions, and then we'll go from there. I don't want to go line by line for every item,
Okay.
considering we only have a half hour left. Does the council have any questions for Bob while he's looking it over?
Really not any significant change.
I'm trying to look. It's only $1,000 difference in my budget. I'm trying to figure out where I really go up on much.
All right, well, if none of the council has questions, we'll move on to the next.
Okay.
Tax assessor.
Tax assessor. Increase in the tax assessor's budget is due to the state mandated revaluation. That is the full reval where they have to go out and knock on all the doors, walk around all the houses, and it is not reimbursed by the state, so it's entirely upon the town. Other than that, my budget's the same as last year.
Any questions for Sal? I'm going to be honest with you.
Actually, Sal, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
When's that reval going to take place again, Sal?
It's taking place as we speak.
And when will it be completed?
Around a year from now.
Okay.
We'll have all the final numbers will be in. They'll have hearings, and we'll have numbers for a budget for the next fiscal year at this time.
Thank you.
Yeah, they were actually at my house 4 weeks ago. Sal, I'm gonna be honest with you. I know conversation of the tangible tax has been kicking around again. So that, it's something we're gonna be looking at in the future. I just want to give you a heads up, and, you might want to give us some numbers on that.
What were we looking for?
Tangible tax, individual,
Okay,
the position, not the individual, the position.
well, I know, this year already, we've already found a company that's, I don't know where they've been hiding their equipment, but probably well over a new $1 million account, Green Development. They've been storing their equipment up on Division Road, so that's something we wouldn't have had without someone like that.
Any questions for Sal?
Just a quick question. I thought Green Development was in East Greenwich. I mean, up on South County Trail.
They have an office there, nothing else. We've already checked with all the other towns that they have I think they have something in North Kingston, a little office. I think that's the one on South County Trail. We've checked with East Greenwich also. No one has any of the equipment that we've picked up on this. There's like these big excavators that go in and clear solar farms. The machine that cuts and trims and stacks and.
All right, thank you, Sal. Any questions for Sal? Sal, how often has Tony been here this year?
Tony has been coming in since, I want to say since August. He's been coming in that time. He did not come in because of age, and he had children, grandchildren around when things started last March. And then when things lightened up again, as they started with the new phase-ins, he started coming in.
He doesn't work every day, does he, Sal?
No, he looks like 65 days a year.
Thank you.
All right, any questions for Sal? No questions, move on to Board Assessment Review.
Board of Assessment Review, I don't think we changed that either. They kept it the same. It'll probably, I don't believe we're going to receive that many appeals as we did last year, it being the third year of a revaluation. It's the following year that it's probably going to have to increase. That those are the first year of the revaluation is usually the I'm going to say the busiest, but this is the year most people appeal in.
Any questions for Sal? Thank you, Sal. We'll move on to planning.
Council members, planning budget is pretty much level funded from last year to this. There's about a $560 increase, and that's attributed to healthcare related to medical and dental insurance rate increases, I guess. Everything else is level funded from last year to this.
Any questions for Mark? We'll move on to town engineer then. Really don't have an engineer, so who's going to read this budget? Any questions or concerns on the town engineer? Zoning. Any questions on zoning? Hearing none. Personnel. Sherry, your first budget.
Hello. Yep, so pretty much kept everything flat from the prior year. The biggest expenditure you'll see obviously are wages, and then just to explain, medical and testing. That's all of our pre-employment physicals, all of our required drug testing for the DOT certifications for the employees that have CDLs. And also if we need to do any third-party medical evaluations, if we have any issues, injured on duty folks, sometimes we have to send them out for a second or third opinion. So that's that expenditure line. Everything else is pretty much the same.
Any questions for Sherry?
So Sherry, the difference in that medical and testing line, it's so small this year. Is that really COVID related and people not being around, or is there a timing that we pay a fee at some point in time?
No, so actually we just submitted a pretty large invoice. It's going to bump it right up to the 15.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, it was, some of it was timing. Yeah,
Okay.
I think some things just didn't get done until I got there. So
A lot of things didn't get done until you got there, but that's all right. Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions for Sherry? Town manager.
The only increase in the town manager budget that you have before you was the increase for medical insurance in anticipation of a manager requiring medical insurance where the previous one didn't take it.
Any question on the town manager's budget? Finance.
So the biggest increase in my budget is again, the little request of a part-time accountant to help out with some of the daily activities that we have going on here in finance, as well as to implement some of the management letter comments that we got on the audit. There's manuals that need to get done. There's an accounting manual. There's procedures that can be written, and there's some federal spending guidelines that need to get incorporated into our purchasing policy. So there really is the need for a part-time accountant. So I did put that back in. Other than that, everything else is level funded. The audit we just finished the second year for our audit with Bloom Shapiro. We have one more year. So that's just a small increase for their final year of their bid. Other than that, medical and dental. Yeah, that's about it for finance.
Any questions for Kristen?
So Kristen, the amount that you're asking for the part-time of 25,000, how is that number determined? Is it based on hours? Is it based on projects?
Yeah, so I was thinking like a 19-hour a week employee at about probably at about $25 an hour. A 19-hour a week employee would be just about 25,000 a year, and they wouldn't get benefits. But it would be an immense help. Some things that I spend time doing, I could hand off to that person and be able to put my head into other things, because sometimes I am a jack of all trades and I'm putting effort into all of the little hats that I wear, but I could be putting a significant more if I didn't have other, tedious things pulling me down.
Any questions for Kristen on that? Kristen, I'll be honest, I'm circling that position. I'm just letting you know that.
I know.
Me, myself, I'm circling it, but I don't know what anybody else is.
To apply?
No. To eliminate.
Okay. It's worth a shot.
No, that's.
Can you
I'm
eliminate
only
something
one.
that doesn't exist yet?
Well, it's in the
Right.
budget.
You mean the line?
The line, I can eliminate the line item.
Mhm.
But that's me. That's just me. But any other questions for Kristen on that? Tax collector.
Hi, everybody. Our operating expenses are the same as last year. And the only things that went up were the contractual ones, which is longevity, general wages, dental, very minimal, but nothing that I have control over. We are still, well, this year we have to get estimates for our mailing services for the tax bills because ABS went out of business and we're in the process of doing that. So that's going to probably still be around the same amount as it is every year. And our computer services, we're still in the beta stages for our upgrade. So nothing's changed there either. So that's basically our operating expenses are the same as last year as far as right now.
Any questions for Rose? Thank you, Rose.
Okay.
Senior Center. I thought I saw Manny. Manny is on.
Yes, we're asking to be level funded.
Any questions for Manny on that one? And Manny, thank you for everything you guys have done this year with everything the Senior Center has jumped into, as far as your staff and volunteers up here at the Civic Center. I know I stopped in one day and I saw a lot of volunteers and town volunteers and staff members of yours up here working, and yourself. So thank you for everything you've done this year. I know it's been an off year for everybody.
Yeah, thank you. I recognize my staff and the great work they did. I also like to recognize Chief Ferrone. He has done a fabulous job putting this together, putting the clinic together, him and his staff. I mean, I used to watch TV, watch the clinics and see hundreds of people in line. And when he said we're going to have a clinic at the Civic Center, I was a little apprehensive. But what a program he put on up there. Very organized.
I was going to recognize him when we got to his budget.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Manny? Thank you, Manny. Housing Board, there's nobody here for that. I will say a letter was sent to us that I'm not sure any of us received. They were supposed to invite them to this budget hearing. I did not get a response, but they did send a letter to all of us. Again, I haven't received it. I don't know if anybody else has. It might still be sitting at Town Hall somewhere, they said. That they were requesting some sort of raise, but so as I told them they'd have to come before us at budget time. So I will tell them once again that we'll be going through our budget and they need to come present what they want. Because I again, never received a letter. Did any of the council receive a letter? No.
No.
Yeah, they mailed it to 1170 Main Street, so I'm not sure where it went. So Housing Board, we are done with for now. Revenue.
So fortunately, at the 11th hour, we got Governor McKee's state aid projections for fiscal year 22. And there was a nice little gift in there for the distressed communities. That aid is going back up to $953,745, which was very helpful in this budget. Also, our projected meals taxes are going back up. They stayed pretty consistent during 21 anyway, so I was inclined to probably budget more than what they said. Hotel tax is coming back that's pretty much going to come in on target at what we planned for 21. Motor vehicle aid is a calculation, is a formula between what we assess and what the state will phase out. And right now, this is all based on current law, and there has not been a discussion of changing current law. I did a little analysis on the town clerk and building official revenues over the past 5 years and decided it was time to bump those up a bit. So I bumped those up. Pretty much everything else stayed consistent. The sewer admin fees went down. Still, though we're not going to use our fund balance that we budgeted, well, knock on wood, unless something tragic or horrible happens, we're not going to be using what we budgeted for fiscal 21. So I was comfortable putting that same number in for fiscal year 22. So these bump ups in revenues ease the tax burden. So while our budget is going up $2.1 million or somewhere close to that, our taxes are only going up 1.2 million because we've had these increase in revenues, other revenues to offset. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions for Kristen?
Kristen, you also, I think, did you make a change with the assumption on what we're going to collect in taxes?
I did. So I also went back and did a 5-year look back on what % we were collecting of the levy. And all 5 years were 97 and above. 1 year was 96.8. So the average was a little higher than, it was like maybe 97.1 or 2. So I felt comfortable bringing it to 97%. So it went up 0.2 basis points from 96.8 to 97.
Any other questions for Kristen? Debt service.
Debt service is staying pretty level. In fiscal year 22, we will be retiring our QZAB bond sinking fund. That is going to go bye-bye. So the 188,000 is the final payment. Wells Fargo should be delivering a forward purchase agreement in the amount of $3.5 million. That will retire that debt of $3.688 million. So we only needed to do half of the interest that we would normally budget for that. I did some shifting for the wind turbines. Our portion went up a bit with the new Schedule B. And then also the lines up top with the 77,940 and the 14,764, the general fund portion of the energy efficient buildings improvements that were done. It's all in one bond, and I was splitting the expense between general fund, and that kind of wreaked some havoc when we were doing the audit at the end of the year, the accounting. So basically, I'm just bringing it down as it's going to be more of a transfer out, kind of an expenditure on the general fund into the wind turbine, into the energy fund, where the expense, the principal and interest payments would be made. So it really was a wash. It just went from one line down to the other line.
Thank you, Kristen. One quick thing on, probably be more the revenue side. I apologize. Is there a way we can get a report of what the wind turbines have done the last 2 years? I know we was going to do this before COVID and have Mark D. Pasquale and his group come to a meeting, but then COVID hit and we never got that done. So I was just wondering if you can.
So you want to know what the additional revenue that's been generated?
Well,
for selling credits.
Yeah, well, the revenue that obviously what we pay, and then in the end, what our electric bills would have been, and then plus the surplus of selling the credits.
I don't. I'll have to look on that, on what our electric bills would have been. I'll have to see if we can get a report out of National Grid for that.
And then we can also get a surplus of credits of where we are and what we've gotten the last 2 years. That's all I have. Does any other council member have any questions for Kristen? Street lighting?
street lighting, Mark and I took a look at that, and we thought it was safe to shave another 10,000 off of that. It's kind of gonna come in at maybe a little under 100,000 this year once we pay the 12 monthly payments. And there's a few lighting expenses that are coming our way for some poles, some lights that needed to be fixed. So we were comfortable bringing that down to 100.
That's something that we've continually brought down since that line item used to be well over $350,000, if I remember correctly. And when we went to Prism, it's going down and it keeps going down. So also it's helping us with our credits, because when we first built our wind turbines, we were based off the old street lighting. The new street lighting uses less power. So it's also helped us with our credits, but we're going to probably be discussing that over the next couple of weeks also. Any questions on street lighting? Hearing none, that concludes our first budget workshop. We're meeting next Tuesday. Or is it Monday? Is it Monday or Tuesday?
Monday.
Next Monday at 6 o'clock. So we'll start over then. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5-minute recess.
We're staying on this feed, right?
Yes, 5-minute recess.
Yeah,
Remember,
everybody
you're-
stays right here.
Remember, you're live.
Hey, David, you still on?
Yes, I'm still on.
The only increase in my budget was contractual increases. I have no other increases in my budget except for wage
All right.
contraction. All right.
We adjourned, Bob. Thank you.
Yep, you got it. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Hey, Mark, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Thank God. I've had a problem with my computer today. Hi, Joe.
Hi, Tim. We can see you and hear you.
Yeah. Well, I finally got some audio. My speakers are shut, so I gotta do something.
Spend the $10.
No, I thought I actually had a new